already matched their win total from last year of 15. So clearly there is improvement, there is progress. However, this team's win total could be at least 5 to 10 more than it is right now with adequate coaching. The coaching job that Sam Mitchell is doing here in Minnesota is just absolutely awful, and he is really holding a lot of these young players and this team as a whole back from improving to its full potential. And just a couple quick cases in point. Exhibit A, ladies and gentlemen, the guy starts Tayshaun Prince at his small forward position when Tayshaun Prince has no business even playing in the association anymore. Then the one that's really got me is the way this guy makes substitutions. Our basketball coach makes substitutions like he's running a freaking hockey team doing line changes. Earth to idiot. It's freaking basketball. You sub in one guy at a time, maybe two. You don't take the entire freaking front court out, or the entire back court out, or the entire freaking five-man team out, and have these different line combinations. Seriously, it's gosh dang ridiculous. Pardon my French, I'm sorry, but... So I came up with this quick little idea I had for the T-Wolves that we're going to check in with from time to time, and other teams too possibly. And I call it the good, the bad, and the gots to go, where we discuss who's good, what's going good, who's bad, what's going bad, and what needs to change, who's got to go. With the Timberwolves, we start with what's good, and you have to start with Karl Anthony Towns. Big Cat, number one overall pick in the draft, going to be NBA Rookie of the Year this year, having an incredible season. He is the real deal. Do not hesitate to hitch your fan boat or your organization boat, if you're the T-Wolves, to this guy. He is everything you want your number one superstar on a team to be. Other good encouraging points on the team would be our other young big man, Gordy Jang. Looks like he could be a legitimate starting center in the NBA to Karl Anthony Towns' ideal four-spot power forward would be incredible for the T-Wolves. Also a bright spot would be backup small forward Shabazz Muhammad, and sometimes backup point guard, sometimes backup shooting guard, sometimes starting point guard, sometimes starting shooting guard, Zach LaVine, defending dunk champion, who will be defending his dunk title again in this year's All-Star Weekend dunk competition. Those are your goods, along with Andrew Wiggins from time to time. He did have back-to-back 30-point games here in the past two games. That was nice to see, but I do not trust this guy one bit. He reminds me of a short T-Mac. That's right, Tracy McGrady. I figured out who Andrew Wiggins reminds me of. He reminds me of Tracy McGrady minus 4 inches height. And what did T-Mac ever accomplish in the NBA? Not a damn thing. So my jury is still way out on Andrew Wiggins. I don't trust him. I am encouraged by him from time to time. And ultimately, I think he fits into the gots to go section, but not at this point yet. Now, as far as the bads go, you've got Rubio, you've got Kevin Martin, not Kenyon Martin. Tayshaun Prince is absolutely atrocious. Andre Miller, a lot of the depth on this team does not provide anything remotely close to a definition of the word depth, but that's what we're calling it. And then finally, that brings us to the gots to goes for the Timberwolves, headed, without question, in my opinion, by two men. First and foremost, current head coach Sam Mitchell wasn't supposed to be the head coach. Terrible circumstances got him the job, and it's clearly obvious to all of us now why he was demoted throughout his NBA career from a head coach who won Coach of the Year, by the way, back to an assistant coach who the only way he could get a job in the league was by going back to his personal friends that he had made in his playing and coaching days previously in his career. So your first, foremost, primary source of problem and struggle for the T-Wolves is the head coaching position. We don't have a real head coach, and we need to get a real head coach before we can really expect to go anywhere and turn a corner as a team or fully develop all this young talent we got. The next name on the tops of the gots to go list is your starting point guard, Ricky Rubio. I've said for years, and I still stand by it, you cannot win in the NBA with Ricky Rubio as your starting point guard, period. End of story. Ricky Rubio would be a fantastic backup point guard for a good playoff team. He will never be the starting point guard of a playoff team. If he is, it should only be due to injury, okay? It shouldn't be because he's the number one guy at that position. That's the second biggest thing holding us back. When it comes to Kevin Martin, he's a question mark. I do like what he can provide the team from an instant offense standpoint off of the bench as a guy who can create his own shot. That being said, he's extremely streaky and inconsistent. He doesn't have the best attitude. He's not the greatest team player. And if you can trade him and get anything for him, I highly recommend doing that. Your final question mark then following him would be the superstar that I mentioned, last year's number one draft pick, Andrew Wiggins. I believe that there is no way at all that we can keep Towns and Wiggins together past 3 to 4 more years anyway. When we get to that point, Towns is the guy to keep, there is no question. So why not use this year, possibly next year yet, to build Andrew Wiggins' stock and the team's overall appeal? And then once we arrive at that point, we trade Andrew Wiggins for a point guard. We trade Andrew Wiggins for a Derrick Rose. We trade Andrew Wiggins for a Russell Westbrook. We trade Andrew Wiggins for anybody, any of the top 10 to 15 point guards in the league. Mike Conley, Jeff Teague, any of these guys would make our team significantly better with them at point guard and Rubio and Wiggins both out of here, because it is going to cost us Wiggins to get somebody like that unless we wait until free agency next year, can somehow rid ourselves of Pekovic's giant wasted contract as well as Rubio's giant wasted contract. That's what we would need to have happen to have the money to sign any good veteran point guard like Mike Conley or Jeff Teague in free agency next year. And we're not set up to do that, so we have to move at least one of those pieces, to even think that, free agency is a thing for us as a team. Otherwise, we have trades and draft, and that's it as a way of building and bringing in new pieces. So I highly recommend that nobody get too attached to Wiggins. Root for him to do well, so that we next season or this season or the following season after next season can trade him for a point guard that can play with Cat and win us games. Now, that's all the T-Wolves talk we're going to have for this week. Taking a super quick light look around the league, the Golden State Warriors are still the bomb. They are officially now 1 game ahead of pace of the 72-win record-setting Chicago Bulls. So it is time. I've been waiting and holding off, but it is officially time to start the watch on the Golden State Warriors, and if they can break or tie the all-time NBA record for wins in a regular season, which is currently held by the Chicago Bulls at 72, and they are, I want to say, like they're 45-4 or something like that, and the Bulls were 44-5. So looking great for the Warriors. However, there is another team in the West that is not to be taken lightly, especially come playoff time, and that would be the San Antonio Spurs. They have not lost a home game the entire freaking season. They've got like the 4th longest home winning streak in NBA history, something along those lines, and they are every bit for real too, and they did not get the opportunity to go up against the Warriors last year in the playoffs. So do not assume that just because the Warriors are, the standout historic team right now throughout the regular season, that come playoff time, that means they're a shoo-in to win the championship, because if and when they have to face the San Antonio Spurs in a best-of-7 series, man, that's going to be some sweet basketball to watch. That's all we'll say on it for now, but don't take anything for granted. That's the attitude to go into it with. And then as far as the rest of the standings go, there's a bunch of other teams out in the West playing, and there's a bunch of teams out in the East playing. Done. There you go. All right. Moving on. Why why don't we get in, since we're in quickie mode, why don't we get in a good old NASCAR quickie, huh? Bet you didn't see that coming Super Bowl week. Well, there is a little bit of NASCAR news regarding a fairly famous race car driver by the name of Tony Stewart. You probably remember this guy for killing a dude with his vehicle on a racetrack a year or two ago. So I probably going to hell for laughing about that, but he's in the news now because he was recently, this past Sunday, he was involved in a recreational ATV accident driving a buggy or something like that, and he messed up his back pretty bad. He just had surgery on it. There is no timetable for his return. He will miss several races in the first quarter to first half of the NASCAR regular season, including the Daytona 500. He is the second most winning driver in NASCAR history to have never won a Daytona 500. And I bring that up because this was going to be his Jeff Gordon year of 2015, where 2015 was Jeff Gordon's last year as a full-time driver on the NASCAR circuit. Well, 2016 is or was going to be Tony Stewart's swan song season in professional racing for NASCAR. However, it's looking like that is going to, not at least be starting out the way he was hoping for. But we do hope that Tony recovers from his injuries and that he can regain his health as soon as possible. So best wishes in those regards to you, Mr. Tony Stewart. All right, moving on from NASCAR to PGA Golf. We got a couple golf tournaments going on this week. We got the Dubai Desert Classic going on in the Euro Tour, and I saw that Rory McIlroy, after the first round, is 2 strokes off of the lead there. And then in your PGA Tour, we've got the Waste Management Open this week. I know the fifth the fifth major, the unofficial major, the Waste Management Open. But a few big names playing in this one. Phil Mickelson, for starters. But so far in the lead after one round today is the young phenom, maybe poised to join Spieth and Day and McIlroy in the new generation of major winner studs on the PGA Tour. And that's Ricky Fowler. So we'll see if Ricky Fowler can continue his success in golf tournaments that aren't majors, which he has done a fairly good job at thus far in his career. So now moving on to our 2 final quickies. We got professional tennis and pro wrestling. Then we'll close out with Balls Deep Thought of the Day, as we always do. Recapping the Australian Open, the men's championship was on January 31st, and it featured number 1 ranked Novak Djokovic taking on number 2 ranked Andy Murray, and of course the Joker won. So little surprised that he won in straight sets, 6-1, 7-5, 7-6. But the second and third set, as he says, 7-5, 7-6, those are very tight contested sets. So other than the first set, it was a very good competitive finals match, despite the fact that it was still a straight sets victory for the champion. How did we get there? Well, in the semis, where we last left off talking about the Australian Open, Novak Djokovic defeated the 3-seed Roger Federer 6-1, 6-2, 3-6, 6-3. And in the other semifinals game, Andy Murray, it took him all 5 sets to defeat 13-seed Raonic 4-6, 7-5, 6-7, 6-4, 6-2. And then, if we go over to the women's side, we had Serena Williams get upset in the finals. That's right, Serena Williams lost in the finals of the Australian Open, so it will be no calendar Grand Slam again this year for Serena Williams. It got denied in the last tournament this year. She got it out of it early this year by losing the Australian Open to I don't know what her first name is, but it starts with the letter A, Kerber, and she was the 7th ranked player on the female side. She defeated Jay Konta to get to the finals, and Serena defeated 4-seed Radwanski to get to the finals. Both of those were in straight sets. The finals, however, went a full 3 sets on the women's side. Kerber won 6-4, 3-6, 6-4. So a really good competitive back-and-forth finals on the women's side there. So your women's champion, again, is Kerber, and your men's singles champion for the Australian Open is the greatest male tennis player in the world, Novak Djokovic. And now we find ourselves at the final quickie topic of discussion for tonight's show before we close with our Balls Deep Thought of the Day. And that finds us in the world of pro wrestling, one of my favorite entertainment forms. To watch. That's right. Judge me. I don't care. But needless to say, most of the interest and activity in the wrestling world revolves around a company known as the WWE,